How unfair can you be, you shitty god? For the first time in the entire series, we get to see Kaiser without the mask, a completely unfiltered reaction. It isn't rebellion for star points, it isn't a mind game directed at Isagi. It's a raw, involuntary outburst at something he sees as fundamentally unfair. What makes lines like this stick in our heads comes down to two things: impact and character. Up until now, Kaiser hadn't had many moments like this, and definitely not in public. Sure, we've seen cracks in his confidence, brief flashes of self-doubt, and moments where he questions his own worth. Those are pieces of Micheal Kaiser's character that we've always known were there. During the PhD and Bastard Munchen game, this is the first time he lets those emotions spill out loud. And the impact of that moment isn't small. It forces Isagi to reanalyze Kaiser from the ground up, triggering a chain reaction, a snowball effect, that ultimately leads to the two rivals begrudgingly align with each other. But to really understand why this moment matters, why a single outburst from Kaiser feels so heavy, we have to step back. Because Kaiser didn't start as someone who questioned his own worth. He didn't start as someone cracking under pressure. And he definitely didn't start as someone who let the world see even a glimpse of vulnerability. When Kaiser enters the story, he's presented as the exact opposite. A flawless genius. A crowned king. A player so overwhelmingly confident that Bastard Munchen bends around to his presence. He walks in as a finished product, the type of talent people assume chosen by God. Born perfect, destined for greatness. So how do we get from that man, the untouchable prodigy, to someone standing on the field, staring down fate itself, and calling God shitty? To answer that, we need to go back to his introduction, back to the persona he built, the worldview he carried, and the throne that stood long before Isagi ever challenged him. Because the cracks we see in the PhD match didn't appear out of nowhere. They were always there, quietly waiting. And Kaiser's introduction is where those cracks first become visible, if you know where to look. When Kaiser first appears, he isn't introduced as a fully formed character with depth, insecurity, or cracks. He's introduced as a wall, a barrier placed directly in front of Isagi for the sole purpose of reminding him how far behind he really is. Kaiser doesn't walk into blue lock with mystery or slow build-up. He arrives, already towering above everyone, already crowned, already operating on a level that feels unreachable. And the very first thing he does is put Isagi in his place, effortlessly. That introduction wasn't so. It wasn't meant to be. Kaiser was designed to overwhelm, with his presence, with his ego, and with his talent. But what makes him different from the usual genius-rival archetype is that he doesn't just talk like he's better. He proves it. Over and over. Every flex, every goal, every decision he makes on the field is backed by the 10 times the skill needed to justify the arrogance. From the moment he enters Bastard Munchen, Kaiser establishes a rule that carries through the entire series. He says he's superior, he shows you why. If he says you're beneath him, he makes sure you understand it. And that's what makes him, or his, cracks later, appear. Those fleeting moments of frustration, doubt, and unfairness. So significant. Because they're only powerful once you understand the impossible standard he holds to himself. A standard he seemed untouchable against from the second he appeared. Bastard Munchen's match against Manshine City isn't a test of strength, it's a test of rhythm. Manshine City thrives on speed, sudden bursts, and relentless pressure. For a striker like Kaiser, whose game is built on calculated certainty, they should feel like home ground. On the field, Kaiser moves like a metronome. Every step, every touch is measured. His presence draws defenders, fractures rushing lines, and creates space not through brute force, but through control. Though a sheer dominance of tempo and intelligence, Kaiser doesn't just survive the speed. He beats it. The king remains seated on his throne. But even within the victory lies a sole reminder. Speed doesn't just threaten the body, it threatens our confidence. And as we'll see, that threat will resurface. Against Ubers, Bastard Munchen isn't facing speed, they're facing structure, defensive walls, calculated tactics, a challenge to precision through unpredictability. Kaiser still performs, technically, physically. But the match isn't about strikers and goals. It becomes about unpredictability, adaptation, and mental endurance. For the first time, we see hesitation, overthinking, Slight misreads. Not enough to shatter him, but enough to remind him that his perfection is a fragile crown. And when pressure becomes a psychological, rather than a physical, even a near-flawless striker may find himself questioning whether technique alone can guarantee domination. PXG isn't another opponent. They represent chaos, strategy, mental games. They challenge everything Kaiser stands for. In this final match, every claim of superiority, every assertion of control is put to the test. As defenders close in, as pressure mounts, as the unpredictability of the game claws at the edges of his perfection, Kaiser finds himself pushed to the brink. This isn't just a match. It's a trial of ego, a test of belief. And when he stares down the possibility that maybe, just maybe, even a crowned king can fall, we catch rare glimpses. Frustration, doubt, rage. In this crucible, that the phrase finally tastes real. How unfair can you be, you shitty god? We see within characters like Loki, who show that Kaiser and his abilities just won't be enough. Loki is a character who's the exact opposite of Kaiser, although Isagi doesn't see it only until he lashes out. This is why Kaiser will never be as good as someone like Isagi, as though, even though he begins to change and enters his zero state, he isn't just quite as far as Isagi is in his mental structure, as his adaptability just isn't as strong, and in the face of an unbeatable threat like Loki, he breaks and he can't come back, not as strong as he was before. Kaiser isn't just a striker, he's an ideology, a living manifesto of ruthless logic, ego and ambition. His strengths, his precision, his unshakable confidence, his ability to dominate by design, not emotion. But his weaknesses? That confidence can become a brittle crown when the world doesn't play by his rules. And his biggest flaw is his perfection, his ability that he never lets himself have room for error. No matter how small, no matter how big, no matter how small that is, it becomes a fracture no amount of ego can fully hide. What makes him captivating isn't how many times he wins, it's how many times he walks the edge of control and chaos, and how each time his faith in himself claws to stay intact. In a world built on unpredictable passions, Kaiser stands as logic's champion, but logic can falter when faced with human will, emotion, and unpredictability. And he knows this. I want to thank you for watching this short little essay. I planned for it to be much bigger, but I just don't feel like I had the time for that, with life and college and work. But ultimately, I'm just glad I got something out about some of my favourite characters, or just in this case, my favourite character, Kaiser. In the comments, let me know who's your favourite. Did you think I had any bad takes? I mean, I probably did. For all I know, I could have been saying some of the worst takes ever. But I'd like to hear what you guys think. And any feedback is good feedback. So, like and subscribe.